All right, it's the first Delto Bowl in a while. This is the second game of the match. I missed the first one. Delhi has first turn and clearly a right issue. Seto has second turn and a significantly more balanced hand. We'll see if he can take advantage of that. Delhi is someone who likes to use all the time he gets. Seto is someone who likes to leave it left over. Maybe he'll use it in the next game. Delhi starts in 2 here with 4-3-6-4 as a potential recapturer. And presumably he either, yeah, but he also uses this as an aggressive side. I like this as a starter, surprisingly, given that I don't like side starters. Because with his 7-2-3-4, he says Seto does not have safety in 1 or 3, but Delhi has safety in both those squares. Yeah, I like this as a way of handling it. I think in general, people tend to play defensive sides, and aggressive sides like this, where the opponent doesn't have a natural way to play safely and build out an L, are to be preferred. And especially with a hand this clumsy, it seems a very apt way to approach the game. Also, no, we'll get to that. Or we won't get to the move I was thinking because it's a bad move. From Seto's perspective, I know Seto said in the interview I did that when he sees a side starter, his first instinct is 7 or 9. I'm very much a 1 or 3 guy, but I think 7 or 9 are just as good and often do more to complicate the game. And here, it is certainly a difficult card for Delhi to approach. Let's remember there is no plus wall. Yeah. So 6155 is not giving natural coverage, and this is a difficult card for Delhi to deal with. My instinct, it's a bit sketchy, but it's something like 6155 and 7. If you think about the natural structural moves here, there is safety in 1, but not in 3. So you definitely check 1. You think, if I play 1, do I have good counterplay if they play 3? Right? And you might. For instance, if either of the cards with a 5 down, that gives you a plus and 6, though maybe not one you can take advantage of, because then Seto has the same in 5. And if Seto plays with a 3 facing down, not a ton you can do with that. So 1 is an option, but not particularly appealing. All the options except 5 and 7 allow Seto the first lock-in. And because Delhi doesn't have 8, 5 and 7 have some reason they'd appeal to you. They tend to give the opponent a lot of options, but one thing I like about 7 is Seto neither has safety in 1, 3, or 8. And it does give us threats against their card, right? We do have some potential play against their cards, even if we're not really going to be able to actually use it. And I think 4-3-6-4 may end up being a pretty good sweeper on the left, or 6-1-5-5. One of them has a chance to be, though they both can get walled. I don't know. My instinct is 7, but I could very easily be wrong. All right, Delhi goes with the 1 option. So he has probably followed this lineup. Notably, I think in general, I tend to go for concrete options like this, where I say, okay, I know if I go 1, their main option is 3, and as long as I find something I'm happy with against 3, then I have, I figured out my line. I may be in trouble, but I've hopefully calculated it far enough along I can get a tie. Delhi tends to play more abstract moves, right? A move in 7, you are never going to have calculated, not just everything, because you're never going to have calculated everything with just 3 moves played, unless you're super math savant. But you're not going to have even calculated the critical lines all that deeply. You have to play it somewhat based on control of the board and feel, rather than on specifics, right? While a move in 1, you're going to have specifically said, I go in 1. Okay, what options do they have in 3? They have 3 cards they might play in 3. What are my tools against each of them? And we can see Seto, I think, is going to play 2, 7, 5, 4, and 3 with the 5 facing down, pointing out that Delhi has trouble taking it with 6, 1, 5, 5. Now, I would guess Delhi has a plan here, right? Because this is a specific move that's going to enforce a specific reply, and you can figure it out. But I think it's interesting here in this game. Delhi is playing more like I normally play, and I am thinking of a move that tends to be more in Delhi's range than my own. Um, Now, who knows? Seto is creative. He could be looking to play 2-7-5, 4, and 6, which sets up 2-3-5-7 to land really pleasantly in 5. Note that that sets up pluses or sames for 5-5-3-5 in both 4 and 8. So that's also a kind of appealing option. Um, in general, the squares you look at here, I've been talking so much about critical squares, but in my opinion, it's 3, 4, and 6, especially when Delial is no threat in 8. As we know from every video I've done recently, I hate 8 in these structures. We keep getting these structures, these setups. I like to use structure for move 5, like ST or Q, and setup for like move 3 or 4, trying to stay somewhat consistent with terminology. So I could definitely see 6 being played here as well, and 6 is played. Okay, yeah, that seems potentially very powerful. Now, if you're Deli, one thing this does that can sometimes be exploited, though not here, is it gives you 5, because 9 can combo through 6. And so if you can drop something in 5 that sets up a threat in 8, that can be the best way to get out of this. And in recent games, we've been seeing lots of people finding moves to block 5 while setting up a threat elsewhere. There's a game, I think in the same formation setup but rotated between Turds and Stuff, where Turds finds a hold in 5 here that I think was a very nice move. One of 2 ties, very nice tie. The other tie was in the equivalent of 7. And another recent game between Akiyama and Tezuka, which had cards in the equivalent of 1, 2, and 6, not the card in 9, and Akiyama blocked 5 in a way that would also achieve a tie. So if you can kind of block 5 while doing something, right? The point is 3 and 5 are squared, are paired, and Seto has much better play in them, right? If you take 3, Seto plays 5, and you're in a lot of trouble. But if you can get rid of 5, the problem is they get 3, and 3 is inherently valuable. 3 locks in 3, and potentially 2 and 6 as well. But if you can play 5 while setting up something elsewhere, obviously this is not the case here, so I don't know why I'm talking so extensively about it. But this is a very uncomfortable position. It's really hard to go in 4 here, because while you do have a combo back in 3, if they start in 3, it's not at all obvious you can hold, but maybe there's a game plan there. Maybe there's some version of this position where you can play something in 4, and if they go 3, you play something in 5, and you have high enough stuff facing down that maybe 4, 3, 6, 4 can hold the tie. But I don't think you have the cards. Yeah, I don't think that works. Deli has picked up a card, so he's seen stuff faster than I have. I would guess he's going 3, and has calculated that out, but it looks very difficult given that 5 is such a problem. So where could he go besides 3? 4 seems like the natural square to me, right? 8 is just giving your opponent cards, and it's hard to set up from there. Or at least I haven't seen a setup from there. Like, 4 is the one where you have a chance. Maybe 7 is possible. 7, set up a threat in 8. You could imagine some sequence like 7, you set up a threat in 8, they block 8, you play 4, you have 6, 1, 5, 5 as your last card. That's a really nice card for 3, they block 3, you're able to take back the card in 2, you hold the tie. Okay, he goes 8. I had not worked out 8. What is he saying here? He's saying, you are out of rightward power. Okay, that's very interesting. You are out of rightward power. So if you go in 3, you don't combo, so 1 doesn't flip. You're up 6-4. I'm going to go 6-1, 5-5, and 5. I'm going to make it 5-5, and your only capture is controlled by 4-3-6-4. Very interesting idea. I think this would have been the last square I checked if I was like trying to do extensive calculation, and Deli played it with 2 minutes left on the clock, which suggests to me it got somewhere, but a somewhat similar idea, right? Now, Seto has 5-5, 3-5, and 5. So that means if Seto, for instance, plays... Seto might be able to just play 7, right? But the combo in 5 is going to flip 2, going to flip 1, and that means a combo chain flips back if Deli gets 3. Interesting. A very neat idea. I have no idea if it holds. We're going to trust Seto to be our solver here, rather than go through all 12 possible moves. But we can start ruling some of them out. Let's do the basics first. Any move in 3. Deli replies 6, 1, 5, 5, and 5, and we cannot win. Deli has built a left-facing wall. Very cleverly. Really neat defensive idea. Moves in 5, I think, are all met by 3. And it's really hard to imagine that not being good for Deli. Like, we could count it out, but say, either 2, 3, 5, 7 or 5, 5, 3, 5, and 5 flips the 2 top cards, which means the combo back flips them. And then 4, 3, 6, 4 covers 5, 5, 3. Yeah. I think that should be fine. I think the only winning chances are in 4 or 7. And those are like harder to check, so I'm being lazy and doing the easy ones first. Seto has picked up a card. What card has he picked up? I've already forgotten what's in his hand. 6361. So I was thinking this could land in 7. I thought that was my first instinct. And he does play it in 7. Okay. So Deli, if he plays 4, 3, 6, 4 in 4, the point is either card Seto can land in 5, Deli combos back from 3 because either card combos through 2. And so I think 4, 3, 6, 4 does it. I think 4, 3, 6, 4, and 4 holds, and a really creative tie from Deli. Very nicely done. Yeah, again, I think the last square I'd look. Not the last square I look in general. I usually look at 8 before 7. But I think with the cards how they were, I was talking about 7. 8's just the square I'd be like, okay, 8 has the least chance to do anything. I don't trust it. But Deli found really nice directional advantages and just very cleverly held. There might have been like easier ties, but this was brilliant. Yeah. And per usual, like when someone doesn't win an advantageous position, I don't think this means Seto did anything wrong. I think like what happens is one player plays really well and the other player has to find something creative and smart that is not a detraction from the first player's play. You can only apply as much pressure as the cards let you. I like the move in 6. I assume there was some specific reason 3 was worse. Not sure what it was, but it was presumably there. But 6 looked very good, right? I think anything Deli played in 3 was in tons of trouble. Just looked very difficult for Deli, and then he finds this great tie. And yeah, if you can force your opponent to have to find great ties with 5 moves left, like, no one does that as consistently as we like to think, as I've stressed many a time. Really interesting game. Really glad I caught that one. I love the leftward wall Deli built. What an interesting way of handling it. Just conceding the right side of the board, but seeing I can blank your cards, even though they look really good. Even though they look like they're doing a ton of work, I can play so they aren't. Yeah, fascinating. All right. I think we'll be getting another game shortly. I'm gonna pop open the solver because, like, obviously that was a great game. So red hand, blue hand. They'll both be like, yeah, normal triple triad, but they're very good at this. Alright, Deli had 7252, 2175, 7234, 6155, and 4364. Seto had 6425, 2754, 6361, 5535, 2357. Alright, just see if there was anything there and if other ideas also held, but very interesting game. Really nice conceptually. Yeah. I would feel very proud of that one if I was Deli. No idea if he will, but I certainly would. So 7, 2, 5, 2, and 2. 6, 4, 2, 5, and 9. won't flip you over to the solver because this view is prettier. And then I wanted, for whatever that's worth, 6, 1, 5, 5, and 7. This is the part where the solver gets to say, my move is bad, Deli's move is good. And Deli played 2, 1, 7, 5, and 1. Okay, my move didn't lose. And Deli's move also didn't lose. This is one of those spots. I talk a lot about how, like, sometimes a move has more ties, I'm just checking if they've started again, has more or less ties in response, and use that to get a kind of quick judgment of which move is better. But I think this is not one of the situations where that is useful. Deli's move has more ties in response, but Deli's move creates clarity. My move, technically, there's more room for the opponent to go wrong, but I think there's very little chance they actually will, and it's easier for you to have missed something when playing it. So, knowing now that Deli's move in 1 ties, I think it is the better move. Without knowing that it ties, I prefer the move I was suggesting. But with the knowledge that both are ties, I bet his is more likely to reliably get that tie. So I thought Seto would play something in 3. And the solver is saying this is dangerous, but Deli has multiple ties, it looks like, against any of the options in 3. Seto, on the other hand, played in 6, a move I really like. And there was 1 tie. And Deli found it. Brilliant. Yeah. Excellent work. Showing that Seto, like, again, I didn't think Seto had done anything wrong, but no, Seto played perfectly, right? Seto played maximum pressure. Maybe the move in 9 wasn't, but it probably was. I mean, it looks great. Seto played maximum pressure at all points, and Deli found the only path to survival. Great game. Well done to both of them. I'm going to end this video and make another one for the next game, but that was an awesome game. I hope you enjoyed it.